So my mic wasn't recording, or it did record, as you can see in the background maybe, but because I'm like using a crappy Chromebook, it crashed the site that I was using as uh, a DAW. It just crashed. So enjoy echoes.
Welcome back to the, I think, fourth episode of Talking to Myself. I went on a very long break from this quote unquote podcast. I really need to start taking things serious. But then again, anything that I've ever taken serious, I've never committed to. So I don't think that's the best course of action. I broke my arm, not my arm, my wrist, which is a part of my arm, I guess, maybe. Any anthropologist in the viewers, please let me know. So yeah, I broke my wrist, my radius to be exact. Um, Roller skating, which I really enjoy doing, but I bit off more than I can chew listening, and I say this with all due respect to a white guy, which my sisters, funnily enough, said are just built different. And when it comes to certain sports, it do be seeming like y'all could just break y'all wrists and stuff and just move on about your day and break your femurs and just move on about your day. Um, I could not, when it happened, um, this white boy, he's like, oh, why don't you go down the like that little, he called it something, I didn't know what the lingo meant, so I was like, oh, that little hill right there. So I go down this cement hill at the advice or advised by this white boy who I didn't know at the time was 20, which, does their age have any like, would I not have done it if I knew they were only 20? Probably. No shade. I know it's very ageist of me, but I probably wouldn't have went down it if I knew it was like somebody that's like 2 years out from high school telling me to do this. I would have rethunk it. I would have been like, I'm good, because just like white boys, teenagers in general are just built different. But I did it and immediately fell backwards and instinctively braced myself with my right arm, thus leading to a fractured radius, which is pretty fresh still. I think like 4 days ago it happened. So that's just like what's going on with me. Um, so I took a walk today because right now that's the only workout that I feel comfortable doing. With a broken wrist, a lot of my workouts usually involve like flailing about, dancing, like I want to say aerobic like workouts where it's like full body. So I'm just like, I'll just walk. I'll just do like 10,000 steps a day to keep myself healthy. But I was on my daily walk and I started to think about introspection, which was, the thought was catapulted, I want to say, or like the springboard of I'm not good with idioms. Is that what it is? Idioms. Yeah, so I was listening to a podcast called 10% Happier, or 10%, I think 10% Happier, by Dan Harris. And they were just talking about the upsides and maybe the downsides of uh, introspection or a life examined. And it made me think about this idea that philosophy, which I want to look up the word, but I don't want to, I don't, I'm kind of lazy right now. It would just take a lot of effort to put the mic down and try to type with one hand, my left hand, which is in my dominant hand. But yeah, it's this, I've seen this idea floating around the internet that philosophy or philosophical thought is something reserved for like back way back in the day, for like old Greek or like European, Western, whatever, men who didn't have to like work three jobs just to put food on the table, which there is some validity in that. Like there is some validity in the sense that now, because we have so many distractions, work being one of them, it's harder for us to really sit and be introspective and kind of like form our own philosophies about life, or just to examine life, which, I'm not here to invalidate any of that, because it's very important to really understand what barriers you might have or what obstacles might be in your way in any goal or any aspiration that you have, or for any aspiration you might have. But I do think that it's not, I don't think it's helpful, that type of um I'm going to use a word I hate using, mindset, which whatever. But there's a quote which I'm going to have to like insert the person who said it. I'm pretty sure it was like some philosopher. But a life unexamined is a life, a life unexamined is a life not worth living, or something. Not worth living. No, that's not what it was, I don't think.
So I wasn't wrong. It's kind of like, yeah, it was basically that. And it was by Socrates.
Something like a life unexamined is like a life that's you're not living. Like it's not a lived life. If you're not examining life, you're not living. And when I hear people say philosophical thought is something that these old white men got to do um, back when you didn't really have to worry about where you're going to live, and like food and things and shelter and things like that, it makes me sad, because it for me it sounds like introspection is something that has a price tag. Like only people that are rich or wealthy, or just like upper middle class, like comfortable financially, can only afford to be introspective, which I don't think is like the I don't think it's true. Um, I mentioned the book in a previous video, The Flow, um, Optimal Experience, or the Psychology of Optimal Experience. And in the book, there are some examples of people who are in some of the most just like horrible conditions, and they were able to be introspective still. Like I'm talking people that are like imprisoned and getting tortured. So I don't like this whole, if they can do it, you can do it. I don't think that's helpful. But I just think that sometimes you need a frame of reference. Like you need to see that it's possible. For some people, they need to see that it's possible in order to feel like they can do it. That's why representation is so important. I don't think that your financial health, or like how much money you have, is going to determine how introspective you can be. I do think if you are trying to figure out where your next meal is going to come from and things like that, it can make it harder. But like in the book that I was just referencing, there is a guy who's homeless, and he has thought about his philosophy, his philosophical thoughts on life. It's very more like Christian based, but he's still his he was introspective enough to form ideas about the world and how he wants to inhabit the world, how he wants to think about the world, or how he thinks about the world, and what his purpose is, and things like that, which I don't I I don't like if introspection is for the people that have time, or like quote unquote time for it, which people equate like freedom of like time. Am I making sense? Okay, I'm trying not to ramble, but so people like, I understand that people that have money have more, appear to have more time in the day to sit around and ponder things. But I think it's in the mundane things that you have to do anyways, where you can really sit and think about your views on life, like doing during washing the dishes or sweeping, or if you work a job that's more tedious, just like, oh, just thinking about the space you occupy. I think that's important, and I don't think that's something that only people with money can do, who seemingly have more time or more access to free time. Is this me saying that they don't have more time to rest? No. But I don't look at introspection as something that only happens during stereotypical times of rest, like you in the bed or like nothing happening around you. You walking to work, you can be introspective. You like, I just think that we underestimate just how much time, not how much time, I don't like that verbiage. More like we, our minds are so cluttered with thoughts and worries that it can seem like we don't have time. But I think that practicing more mindful based stress reduction techniques, such as meditation, walking meditation, things like that, or journaling, which I think the Stoics are more into, like this intuitive journaling type of experience where you sit down and just write your thoughts. I think practicing practicing those types of techniques will kind of remove this haze around your mundane activities like washing dishes, so that you're able to sit and be introspective. I think stress is a real big barrier when it comes to people that are in poverty. And I'm speaking from like lived experience. I don't have money. I'm poor. So I understand the amount of stress and worry that goes into being poor. I'm not like built different. I experience stress. I'm just in therapy, which I guess is a level of privilege. Granted, my therapy is funded by Medicaid, like government insurance. So I guess if you are fortunate enough to be in a state where that's a thing, you could get on a wait list for a therapist, which might help forming more healthy mindsets around introspection, or even allowing you to even be introspective. Um, Another thing about introspect or philosophy, philosophical thinking that I think people, I say people, but everyone might have this like academia or academic type of air to philosophy. I struggle with this word so much. I think people think of it in more of an academic sense, but we all have our philosophies on life. Some of us just choose to kind of create it, like build it up, while others just allow maybe past experiences, traumas, patterns passed down by your family who have raised you, or the people that raised you. You are allowing that to shape your philosophy on life. So it's more like a passive philosophy. So I think whether you believe you have time to develop a philosophy on life, there you have one. You have to decide whether or not you want your past traumas or past experiences condition your philosophical thoughts on life, or if you want to really sit and take the time to be introspective and kind of form that. I have, it's a gradual thing. It's not something that just like is an epiphany, not an aha moment. I don't think it is.
So, just dropping in to make it clear that I'm not speaking to, like, I sound like I'm kind of like preaching to people. I feel I sound a little preachy. This is for me. My YouTube videos probably are selfishly more so for me. So, yeah, I'm glad if it resonates for anyone, but don't get it twisted. I have not got life figured out. I'm very imperfect. I don't, yeah, nah. This ain't that. I am not someone who is like this zen, like, oh, I have mastered whatever it is that I need to master. Yeah. Just wanted to say that.
Some people, it does come to them, you're like just sitting or something and just, aha, I understand it all. But I think for most people, it's more gradual, which was something I heard in the podcast I was listening to, the 10% Happier podcast, which I think is a very good podcast to listen to. Very self help ish, but not really. Like, I don't know, you'll learn a lot. But yeah, I think that I don't like that this like weird price tag on introspective behavior. Like, yes, it's we have a lot of stressors as poor people, but mental health or like just mindful practices are especially important to people that are poor. And I think that it's not highlighted enough just how much stress can be a detriment to you, just how unfulfilling life can be when you're allowing your stressors and your worries to dictate your thought patterns, or just to dictate the way you move in the world. Having stressors at the metaphorical wheel of like the driver's seat, if you're like, oh my god, I'm bad at idioms. I think idioms is the word. If it's not, I'm gonna feel like a fool because I've already said it twice. But yes, I'm not good at them. But yeah, just allowing stress and and patterns that have been passed down to you by people that might not have enough resources to know that the way they're behaving is unhealthy. Um, I don't think is like the way to go. I think, yeah, I just think that mindfulness is just super important to poor people or people that are impoverished. Or I'm trying to like, I don't know if poor people is like offensive to say. For me, I'm poor. And, if somebody that wasn't poor called me a poor person, I would get annoyed. So it's like, but I am one of you. So I feel like it's okay. Um, Yeah, I just think when you're living below the poverty line, mindfulness is extremely important. And if you feel that like meditation and things like that are just like some rich white people stay at home mom behavior, I don't you need it the most. Like, I I don't know. I don't know. I hope I'm making like sense. I hope I'm coherent. It's just like it's this thought that I wanted to get out. I probably will write something about it. Maybe something I'll put out to the world. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. If you like me, subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, just like the video.